On this week's episode, what clues lie within the latest Avengers Endgame trailer? Is it time to be part of a division once again? And just what is Microsoft doing with Xbox Live? All this and more as we once again all this all this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great programs. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. He is our trailer evaluator of Humanica Media. You gotta check out everything that's going on today at humanicamedia.com, Humanica Media on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and so much more. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. Another great day for trailers, my friend. The big one popped today, and I'm just so excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it was a very unexpected drop, and I finally did watch the Aladdin trailer too, so that looks pretty cool. But yeah, that was an unexpected trailer drop this morning. Excited to talk about it.
Exactly. And yes, I did see the Aladdin trailer too. I mean, if you wanted later on talk about that a little bit, we can throw that in there as well. As far as, especially, I know a lot of people were talking about in the first trailer how they were scared of Will Smith's character, the genie, and all that. But it seems to like it's better now that they were able to flesh it out more in the second trailer. But we can also just pick up that in a little bit about talking about that just for a couple minutes later on in the program. But we do have a great program, like I said, for you today because we've got a lot of things to talk about. It's just going to be Josh and I talking right at you here. No guests on today because there's so much to talk about when it comes to the world of pop culture because so much is happening right now. We are going to be talking about the Avengers Endgame trailer here in a second. Plus, also, as well, later on in the show, we're going to be talking about the release of Division 2. That's right, Ubisoft's latest game is going to be hitting shelves. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people out there are looking for this one to be as good or better than the original Division. We'll be talking about that if that's possible, our thoughts on Division 2, and if we think it still will hold up in a different age than when the first one came out, because the Battle Royale genre really didn't hit then when the first one came out. So it's a completely different story now. We'll talk about this, the possible success of Division 2 coming up later in the program. Plus, speaking of video gaming, Xbox Live is making some inways into different avenues to for their service, plus also some of their older games in their library as well. So we're going to be talking about Xbox Live's expanding reach, what could possibly be their motivations behind it, and also why are they releasing now, finally, after so many years, the different versions of Halo when it comes to Halo the Master Chief Collection on PCs, for computers. And then also we're also going to be talking about Josh has got a great game that he's been playing. He wants to talk about that. Actually, he wants to give some love to the developers of a great game he's been playing. That's coming up on the back end. Plus, we're going to ask a question to you that I know is going to create and stir some controversy. And I mentioned this on our Captain Marvel spoiler cast, and that is Captain Marvel essential viewing for the MCU? That's right. It's Captain Marvel essential viewing for the Marvel Cinematic Universe if you need to catch up on it. Let's say someone is a casual fan out there. Is this a movie that's out currently, which is going to do gangbusters again, right around 60 to 70 million dollars at the box office here in the United States, plus probably another 150 to possibly even 200 million dollars worldwide? It looks like it's getting closer and closer to even the $1 billion mark. But is it essential viewing for the Marvel Cinematic Universe? We're going to touch on that at the back end of the show as well. But my friend, I was worried that we were not going to have really something that really was going to grab people at the front of the show coming into Thursday. But lo and behold, Marvel saves the day once again. My girls were so excited. They're screaming in the back of the car. "Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! New Avengers trailer! Oh my gosh!" And they got so excited about it. I didn't even know it was going to hit. This was a complete surprise. I think a lot of people were pointing towards right around where Shazam was going to be opening up to go ahead and just try and put one to Shazam on DC and Warner Brothers. They thought that's when the trailer was going to drop because there's obviously going to be, going back through Marvel's history as far as when they put out things, as far as their trailers are concerned, they usually put one out around the time that tickets are made available. Tickets aren't made available as of yet, but still, they dropped it, and they dropped it really quickly right after Captain Marvel's release. So, first off, I want to ask you this, my friend. When it comes to the Avengers Endgame trailer, when you first saw it and you first started taking everything as a whole, before we break down any little bits and pieces of the trailer that you want to go into, your first thoughts on the actual trailer itself, is it something that really was good, better than, or not quite as good as the first Endgame trailer?
It was certainly unexpected. It's not as good as the first Endgame trailer because that was the first time we're seeing footage of it, but it did. I don't know. It appealed more to the emotions and the senses, I guess. Well, not senses, but it appealed more to the emotions than the value of seeing footage for the first time. What would you call that? Surprise, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't know
well,
what.
I'll tell you what. Well, I'll say this. I think this trailer was a little bit better than the first trailer because it showed more, and like you said, it was just going off the emotions. A lot of it was emotional throughout the entire trailer that brought out those emotions with them, and also brought out our emotions as well watching it.
Yeah, because they kind of recapped a lot of what happened in previous movies, and I loved what they did with the colors. They had the black and the white, and they had red with Scarlet Witch's clothing, and I always forget the lady's name from Black Panther, but they had her clothing with red.
Okoye,
Yeah,
Okoye.
yeah, and I know there's some controversy over her name not being on the poster, but it was they did it. It was a very cool use of colors, black and white. They made you kind of feel like you were going back in time. The memories, the thing with Thor and Odin, stuff like that. Captain America. They were
Oh,
very
there was some of the flags were colored red. Just
yeah,
brief bits of red, like during Peggy Carter's funeral. Same thing.
yeah, yeah, stuff like that. Like that, they did a good job of appealing to your emotions because even though you weren't being fed new footage in those scenes, you still felt attached to the characters. Like your nostalgia kicked in, or you felt like I don't know. It's a weird thing, almost like they were part of your family, and you felt like you wanted to stand behind them and support them through whatever they were going, and that was really great editing on the part of whoever made that trailer. But yeah, what did you think of it?
I thought it was very poignant. I did like the fact that it was a new way to show the old footage than just show the old footage. It gave it a new spark to it. It gave it a new substance to it and a new layer of depth I never really experienced before when I watched those scenes because they were just basic scenes, and some of them were just basic scenes, like when you were looking at Thor's home planet. That was just a wide shot of Thor's home planet, but seen with a black and white film with just a touch of red here and there, gave it an entirely new perspective. And the same goes for even after the crash scene after in the original Iron Man movie, when he's just lying there in the desert with all the pieces around him, and you just see that hint of red in the black and white. I mean, it just gave it a whole new vision as far as that, and it gave it more weight. Those scenes were not really that important in their context of their own movies, but within the confines of the trailer itself that we just saw, it gave it a whole new meaning and a whole new importance of what we're seeing. Because with a lot of these, what, first generation Avengers, this will probably be the last time we'll be seeing them. And by doing so, by showing these old clips from them, these old random clips from their original or from their origin stories, it just makes it so much more enjoyable to watch because it's like I said, it's just a new and complete different slant than what we've seen before from those generic shots that were just in those previous origin movies.
Right, and the narrating helped too, but a lot of people like you and I, we go back and I'm sure we watch the Marvel movies frequently, but a lot of people haven't gone back to those times since the movies came out. They just kind of watch them as they come out. Don't really feel the need to marathon them at all as new ones come out and the series progresses. But it is kind of like it's like popping open an old photo album and kind of going through stuff you don't stuff from 10, 12, 15 years ago that you don't remember. You're kind of scrolling through, you're like, oh, such fond memories, and then you kind of forget like how much some of this stuff meant to you when it came out, or you looked at it back then and you didn't see the potential of what it could become, and now here we are 10 years later seeing the culmination of all of that and what it has become. And all of a sudden, maybe taking a walk down memory lane could mean a lot more to us now than it did back then.
The first new footage of of Avengers Endgame was actually a scene between Hawkeye and I believe it was his daughter, and teaching her how to shoot a bow and arrow. And obviously, it was a bullseye from the get go, and he was very happy. It was a very touching moment between father and daughter. Your thoughts on actually placing that first as the first new footage from Avengers Endgame, and what does that tell you about as far as where or how important Hawkeye is to the film? Because he's in several scenes, some as Ronin and some as Hawkeye.
Yeah, well, the Hawkeye scenes I have a feeling are all going to be flashback, but the scenes of him as Ronin, like those are important scenes because Ronin is basically him shedding his humanity to do what needs to be done. Like he basically becomes Frank Castle when he becomes Ronin. Like there's he holds nothing back. Violence is necessary, whatever it takes. Like that's because if you've ever read the comic books, and in the Ultimate continuity is especially graphic because it was Shield that killed his family, and so like he got super bloody in that. But with the movie, we're gonna get a more PG rated version of that. But I feel like that scene with his daughter is maybe it's going to be a shout out to a future Young Avengers film, and that would be cool. But also, I feel like that's going to be kind of the main thing that propels him into madness or into Ronin, so to speak. So he's going to keep looking back on that memory of him and his daughter, and he's going to keep that's going to be something that kind of really motivates him to do what needs to be done, even more so than the death of like his wife and his son and stuff like that.
But there also were scenes of him as Hawkeye running from whatever tunnel he was in as far as an explosion coming up, plus also scenes, very intimate scenes with him and Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson's character, very touching moments, whether it was for friendship or something else. As far as there's obviously a connection, and the Russos wanted to go out of their way to make sure to let you know that there is a connection between those two that is just more than just a working relationship or whatever it is that they've had over the course of the MCU films. That we knew they were close to an extent, but it looks like they were just a lot closer than a lot of people had imagined their relationship to be.
Right. So I mean that could really be one of two things. Like maybe he feels because we don't know how many years have passed, right, since the snap, so to speak. So maybe a relationship did form there between him and Black Widow. But that also leads me to a question like I don't want to turn Black Widow into a trope, but like does she need would that ruin kind of what they're trying to do with her in future films, like saying she needs a man in her life to kind of be who she is. So that's one question to consider. But another question to consider is like um, maybe that's just a natural progression of things. After his wife died, that's what happened. And maybe he felt like he didn't know that they could be brought back to life. So that's just what he pursued because he needed, maybe she was what kind of distracted him from his pain, if that's the route that they're going. And what's cool about this is I really don't know, that this is a relationship that's not explored in the comic book. So it's interesting because I have no idea what's going to happen. So all I can do is speculate on this, and I have no idea, outside of what I just guessed, that would be developing or what that could be because they were holding hands. They were obviously holding hands. So something important was going on. Something intimate was going on. But what was it?
Because in the comics he's a ladies man, and he's with a lot of different
Af
lady
After his
superheroes.
wife dies, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So um, like I said, it's a little bit different in this scenario, and they've actually portrayed him a little bit different. Well, to an extent, they've portrayed all of the Avengers different from their comic book counterparts. So why should Hawkeye be any different? So especially after the loss of his family, you're right. He could have been reaching out, and she could have been reaching out to him as far as something because of the bond that they had over the course of many years, and looks like something may have developed or may be developed as far as between Hawkeye and Black Widow. So that's very interesting, and obviously I want to see more about that relationship and how does that tie into the Black Widow movie that hopefully I think it's going to be out next year if I'm not mistaken, or is that 2021?
I thought that was on a 2020. I thought that was a slate of next movies. They actually haven't really announced anything outside of Spider-Man with for sure dates. I know I saw rumors floating around of Namor being in a Doctor Strange or Black Panther sequel, so I don't know, but they haven't given anything dates or solid windows yet.
I know it's going to be in production soon, so if that's the case, most likely it would be a 2020 start date. But I'm sure we'll be able to report it at some point in time very soon, right there on our Pop Culture Cosmos social media, so you'll be able to check that out. But for me, the trailer itself, I really enjoyed it. I saw a lot of different dynamics. A lot of people still devastated by what you're saying the snap is, and you don't know about the course of time how many years this is going by because just take a look at Black Widow's hair alone in the trailer because it takes different colors, different styles, different lengths over the course of what could be years, and it just you don't know the kind of things that went on if they were dealing with all this pain for such a long time. That is something that is something to me that's something that is very intriguing as far as an emotional scope, an emotional roller coaster that the audience may have to endure through as well during the course of what is purported to be a close to 3 hour movie. So I thought that was interesting. What do you think about that as far as just looking at the fact that the characters themselves, but especially when you see it from Black Widow's perspective in her hair, there's got to be a time frame, a longer time frame for this to happen just based off of the colors of her hair changing and all that. So, and it looks like if that's the case, they were probably dealing with the effects of the snap for quite a spell.
Yeah, well, because obviously in the last trailer we saw, deserted stadiums, stuff like, and we saw newspapers, right? We saw newspapers of people talk. Obviously, if for enough newspaper clippings like that to accumulate, it would have to have taken place over an extended period of time. So, and even in the end scene for Captain Marvel, they showed, we've been researching this device for a long time, yada yada yada, and there's obviously a lot of, I would say, a lot more than weeks put into trying to figure out what that thing does. So, yeah, and it makes for interesting storytelling too. Like what happens, where did what happened in that span of time, and how did these characters develop? Because obviously we want to see them, and this sounds bad, but we want to see our favorite heroes in a state of wreckage, right? We want to see them hurting and reeling from these events, and that's what makes it cool, is that they're going into it, they're not their happy-go-lucky selves, they're all hurt and broken, and that's going to be a side of these heroes that we've never seen before. And what I find even more interesting is that we have not seen Thanos in any of these trailers, right? We haven't seen what he's doing, what he's up to. Are they going to encounter him in the quantum realm because they're wearing the white suits, or is modern Thanos going to catch on to what they're doing? We haven't seen what he's doing or what he's up to in this film, and that's what's incredibly interesting to me, is that did he really think that he was going to get away with this without any repercussions?
And you got to take a look at the time frame as well because during the course of the actual trailer itself, there seems to be one cataclysmic battle that you see Captain America, Ant-Man, um, Nebula, and a couple others. They're fighting for their very lives within the context of some type of battle. But then you see them in another part of the film. in the all white Avenger suits, but in during the cataclysmic battle that I was just talking about, they were in their regular outfits that we are all familiar with from various movies of the past. But again, they were at the near the end of the trailer in a clip, all walking and heading in a direction side by side towards whatever they were going to be doing with at the Avengers facility in matching white uniforms. So I don't know. People have speculated those are possibly time travel uniforms. So at some point in time, it looks like they had a battle. Whether or not they overcame it or lost to it, I'm not entirely sure. But it just seems kind of weird that they're looking for possibly even maybe one or even two really huge battles in the film, which could take place because it is, like I said, within a 3-hour time frame. So it could be the first time we failed, but the second time we succeed.
Right, right. So yeah, we don't know. My theory is that the white suits are going to have something to do with them going into the quantum realm. Because obviously Ant-Man has to wear something specific when he goes into the quantum realm. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. But yeah, I don't think there had to have been some kind of fights or battles or something as a result of the Thanos snap. So maybe it happened in the course of those events, or following those events. But I don't. My theory is that the Avengers haven't all just been standing around twiddling their thumbs in the aftermath of what happened. There had to have been repercussions, fallout. Somebody had to have tried to I don't know, do something at some time, just either out of grief or madness or whatever you want to call it. But I don't think they had spent all that time with nothing to do.
One final question to ask you on the Avengers Endgame trailer. And if you need to catch the Avengers Endgame trailer, we actually have it on our home site, popculturecosmos.com. That's right, popculturecosmos.com. It's right there for you. There's an article right there. It gets you right to the actual video itself. You just click on it, enjoy it. And if you really need to know where to go to find the Avengers Endgame trailer, just check it out today on popculturecosmos.com. One last question I want to ask you: is there any other points of interest that really just stuck out at you? Because I have one that I'm going to talk about here in a sec, but I want to make sure that you share your final thoughts on the Avengers Endgame trailer before we head on out to a break.
Yeah, well, there were two for me. One, I like seeing Rocket with War Machine. That seems like a good pairing on the part of the Russo brothers, and also seeing the Brie Larson's interaction with Thor. Like that was interesting to me because like she was, again, we discussed this on the Captain Marvel spoiler cast. Are they going to replay that scene in the movie, or are they just going to have that be an end credit scene? But I really want to know, like, because Thor is allegedly the one of the most powerful beings in the MCU, and how he stacks up against her would be interesting to me because there's obviously they're both very aware of their powers and their abilities and what they can do. So I just want to see how that meetup happens for the first time.
That's exactly what I was going to point towards. Was at the end of the Avengers Endgame trailer, Thor and Captain Marvel come to a standoff. They're looking at each other very silently with very deadly looks for a couple seconds. She gives him a little bit of a smirk, and then he actually comes up and says, "I like her," and that ends the trailer. So it's very interesting that type of dynamic, what may go on between those two, because, like you said, they're two of the most powerful of the Avengers. So it just to me that, like I said, the trailer for me actually connected with me on a different level, on a much higher level than the first one did. I was still excited after seeing the first one, but this one just makes me just get amped up even more. I know my daughters had to keep on rewatching it and rewatching it and rewatching it and rewatching it just because they were so amped up as far as the actual trailer itself being so good to them. And it looks like from all instances out there, it's probably going to break records when it comes to viewage at the for YouTube. So I'm sure they're going to be thrilled about that. Marvel Entertainment looks like they've got another hit on their hands. It's going to be something that a lot of people are pointing to. And come April 26, 2019, a lot of people are really going to be out there to watch Avengers Endgame. What are your thoughts out there on Avengers Endgame? You caught the trailer. I know you did. And if you didn't, it's on our popculturecosmos.site. It's on our popculturecosmos.com site. And if you did, or if and after you've watched it, we need to know, what are your thoughts on what's going on with Avengers Endgame? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you like some of the details in it? What stuck out to you the most when it comes to the latest Avengers Endgame trailer? Please share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, like I said, it's going to be a great show we've got for you today. We were talking Xbox Live, Captain Marvel, Division 2, and so much more. But we're also going to throw in some music from our great friends, Vedius, DJ Plasma Z, and Hyperschmidt. And we're going to start off today with our good friend, Vedius, who's going to be playing with us coming up, hopefully, at the Level Up Expo in April, which we'll talk about also as well later in the show. But first, this is his great song. This is Vedius, and this is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with the PCC Multiverse. It's Gerald coming right back at you here. My friend, Division 2. This is something that a lot of people were eagerly anticipating coming out. It's finally hitting stores this weekend. It's the latest game from Ubisoft, which just came out with a game last month. But then again, EA is doing pretty much the same thing. So this is the latest game from Ubisoft. It is a sequel to I guess, a very successful game as far as, I don't know if you want to call it a living MMO type deal or shooter type living environment, co-op,
Like
MMO
a
type experience. What?
survival, would you say? Would you say survival would be a genre?
Yeah, kind of survival aspects of it. Yeah, but like I said, it's also type of a shooter type deal as well. So I actually played the original a little bit. It was entertaining for what it was, but the Division 2 looks like, from all instances, to be more refined in that shooting aspect. But your thoughts on Division 2 as it hits stores this weekend? Do you think it will go ahead and surpass what the original Division game has done? Or do you think the concept is something that, okay, it was really good for the time it came out at what, 3, 4 years ago, but at this point in time, with so many other diversions, it might get hurt and it might get overlooked especially at this point in time in 2019.
Well, it's not really the timing of the game that concerns me, because if you look at Division 1, excellent game, very good game. And I didn't actually play it till it came out on Games Pass, but if you look at when that game came out, it took it, a year and a half, 2 years before it became the game that everybody was super stoked to play. Um so my concern is, what is it going to be at launch? What is in store for us? I know Ubisoft has a tendency to put games out just to meet those quarterly earnings reports, but what's it going to be at launch? Is it going to be complete? Are we going to get a big day one patch? What's going to happen with this game? Is it going to be, how is it going to stack up against the first one? Because if it's not a complete game, then why are people even going to bother with it? Granted, the footage at E3 looked amazing, looked like a very beautiful game, very terrifying game. But again, with Ubisoft and EA are notorious for this. What's it going to be at launch? That's my big concern.
I have that concern as well, because these days, the massive day one patch seems to be the norm and not the exception. I mean, am I wrong in that assessment? Because Anthem did it too.
Yeah, yeah. So Anthem was an issue. It's quarterly earnings, and like I applaud companies like Rockstar Games, who kind of took a step back and looked at the process of quarterly earnings versus burnout versus quality control. What does that look like? I admire that. And as someone who loves games, I'm perfectly fine stepping back for a minute and saying, I would rather have a quality game than something come out on a promised release date. And that's the thing with promised release dates, is it creates pressure, because I don't want another Mass Effect Andromeda, and that's what I fear with future BioWare. games coming down the line, which obviously happened with Anthem. But you know, as I feel like you maybe play less games than me, but like you're more in tune with the number side of the business. What would you rather have? Would you rather have a complete experience or something coming out just so you could buy it and play it?
Well, I agree with you on that. It's all nice and good that you want to do it before the end of your fiscal year, which is March. But to me, if it's not a complete game and you have to do so much fixing, there is so much bad PR that comes from it. People will leave the game. People will go ahead and not even try it, or not even play it, or not even continue to play it, because there's so many other diverse options out there. They can just go for free and go to Apex Legends and not even have to deal with any of that stuff that they're paying $60 for when it comes to Division 2 or Anthem or any of those games. Battlefield 5 is coming out with their own battle royale game, battle royale mode later on this month. So, I mean, there's so many other diverse options. We talked about Ubisoft. They just brought out Far Cry New Dawn last month. So, I mean, there's just so many different diversions at this point in time, not to mention all the stuff that came out over the holiday season, which people, I'm sure, for the most part, have not finished completely, so they could just go back into the library there. It just doesn't make any sense these days to go ahead and put out something that's incomplete or rushed, because when you do that, you make mistakes and you leave a bad first impression with gamers, and gamers do not tolerate that at all. I mean, so we've seen now in recent years with No Man's Sky, Destiny 2, where the game ends up being really good on the back end of its life cycle, but by that time, so many players have jumped ship, and so many other players have said, you know what, I've seen so many problems up front, I don't even want to deal with it, that they don't care about what you've done to refine the game that's made it so good at the back end of its life cycle. You need to have something that's good on the front end of the cycle and that's refined and that scores well with critics, because that to me is something much more important. And if it means you delaying 6 months, then you know what? You need to delay 6 months. And I think you and I were pretty much hinting that around the time of Anthem, especially with all the mixed reviews and all the things that needed to be done as far as a huge day one patch. I think they just needed to go ahead and put it out as a fall release, and I think they would have been much better off.
Right, and we're also reaching this point with gaming where the the people who buy the game day one or the first few weeks are the beta testers pretty much, and that's not okay to me. That's really not okay. So we pay $60 for a game and it ends up we hate it, it's garbage, and then they go, "Oh, but we promise we'll fix this and this." And then but by the time they fix that and that, it becomes so bad or I'm so angry at the game that I don't even want to go back and play it. So you shouldn't, you know, this is their way of getting free beta testing. This whole thing like games as a service or games as a what do they call it when they put story content out after the game comes out? Like game a
DLC?
not DLC, but like this is the new landscape of gaming is this ever evolving landscape. Things are constantly going to be changing. It's the game is in development even as it comes out, and I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. It and you know, especially with these big games like this, because a lot of us don't have the money to be guinea pigs. You know, we're paying $60 is a lot of money out of our paychecks. You know, especially with all the other stuff we have to pay for. So just it doesn't seem right to me. And a lot of developers are taking advantage of this just because it's, well, this is the new norm. And that I'm not okay with that.
I'm not either, but unfortunately, it is now a reality and a way of life for these companies to go ahead and do the business the way they do it, and it's just not right the way they until they hear from our wallets and our pocketbooks. Because, like I said, gamers can just easily walk over, or just basically with their mouse go over, or their controller, and just go over and choose Apex Legends for free and play that to their heart's content, and not even have to spend a dime if they don't choose to. So, or a game like Fortnite, the most popular game in the world, they don't have to spend a dime on that if they don't want to. So there you go. That's the big issue that I have with these $60 games the competition is now more fierce than ever for gamers' attention. And if you do not have if you do not have all your ducks in a row, you are going to make a bad first impression with gamers, and that is just something gamers will not tolerate because for the most part, they won't care about coming back to the game. There'll be another 5, 10 games that they can go ahead and play instead that might be better off than one of these AAA titles that just couldn't get their development right as it got closer to the release date.
Right, right. And it's just, again, like you said, there's so many other games out there to play, and it goes back to this whole thing about like E3, right? They show us these rad videos of what the game could be, and then we buy the game, we don't actually get any of that in the game. So it's game developers are very deceptive in these practices, and they know what they're doing, and they know how they're marketing games. They're obviously gonna market to the things that we want. But back to Division 2, I hope that it's good. I'm holding out hope for it. I really enjoyed playing the first one. It again, it is something that you do need to play with your friends. It's not something that's easy to play through by yourself, but it's fun. I hope that it ends up being the game that was promised to us at E3. Hopefully, Ubisoft knows that there's a lot riding on this, and they don't put out some half complete product. But again, it just seems to be par for the course these days. And the only time I've ever seen it done correctly in the past year was with God of War, and that was kind of or God of War and Red Dead 2 were the both very complete experiences right after launch.
All right, and but Division 2 at this point in time, it's getting pretty good reviews. It's being thought of as successful as far as a game, or even more so in some cases as its predecessor, the original Division. So for the most part, it's getting okay reviews, and it looks like it will do pretty good. But in a crowded marketplace, it's just going to be hard for it to continually stand out like its predecessor did, because that was kind of a little bit different, off the beaten path type of novel concept that I think some gamers really wanted to go ahead and delve into and spend many hours on. Division 2 may only cater to hardcores and not bring new players in, which is what you need to do with sequels. Expand that player base. I think it's going to contract a little bit. I don't see the same type of success for Division 2 that the Division had, but I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. I just think at this point in time, with Apex Legends, Fortnite, PUBG, so many different options in the battle royale genre, plus whatever Battlefield 5, plus whatever Call of Duty, Call of Duty is doing. All these other games that are out there that are giving people a choice. I think it's going to be hard for the Division 2 to really stand out. My friend, Xbox Live, it's going places. It's going places, man. I tell you what. Starting with what we talked about, about a month ago, with a possible Xbox Live feature on the Nintendo Switch. Now, this week, they also announced that they are heading, or have headed, to iOS and Android, which is, I guess, at some point, it's mind boggling because we did not think this was going to happen even 3, 5 years ago. And not only top of that, Halo, the Master Chief Collection, is now being sold together and separately on Valve, on Steam, on Steam. So that to me is something that's very different because, as you know, Microsoft tried its own game engine for the PC that they could sell games off of, and had the Halo Vista version, the Halo PC version, and all that, and that didn't go over so well. So, your thoughts on Xbox Lives, as far as on these different platforms? Does it intrigue you at all? What's the purpose of it being on all these different platforms? And what do you think the true motivation is for Microsoft actually putting Xbox Live on all these different platforms?
I think accessibility is a big thing, but I also think that, with all this talk about Sony seeing the success of the Switch and wanting to get into the mobile marketing, and how the Vita and the PSP failed, and now Microsoft saying, how can we not only make our products more accessible, but also get into the mobile market without having to create a mobile console. And I think that's a huge thing. And also like the idea of like how long have we been saying, hey, it would be cool if we could play this game or that game on our Xbox while our friends played on PC or whatever it was that they had. And for the first time in forever, we're finally being able to do something like that, especially with Games Pass being available on PC and Microsoft putting games on Steam and so on and so forth. Xbox is doing very, very clever marketing, especially if the rumors about Xbox Live being on the Switch are true. That's an even better idea. So it's I think accessibility is a big thing, and that's something that they are absolutely wrecking PlayStation at. But it's also this idea of like, hey, I can't, I can't take my Xbox with me and play Halo in the car or something, and it's even now the cloud gaming system, you have to have your console on in order at home in order to be able to play it like on your laptop or whatever. So the idea that I can plug my phone into my Xbox controller and I don't have to have my console on, I can play a game like the Master Chief Collection or Forza Horizon or whatever it is on an Xbox controller, hundreds of miles away from my house while sitting on a dock somewhere or something like that. Like that is incredibly appealing, and that is something that I don't think I'm the only gamer who wants something like that. And I think that Microsoft is answering that call. Like, how do we make Xbox on the go without having to create something like the Nintendo Switch?
Better have good Wi-Fi on that dock, man.
Hey, well, and that's another thing. Is it going to work on a 4G system?
Or 5G.
Oh, look out. But yeah, hopefully you don't have T-Mobile because then you're screwed either way.
Or Sprint. But we won't go there. I just will say that yeah, when it comes to what's going on with Xbox Live, yes, it's great that they're going ahead and being possibly even being on all these different platforms, whether it be mobile, whether it be the Switch, but it is also another revenue for, I guess, marketing and advertising for Xbox, which currently finds itself on the back end of the console wars when it concerns them, Sony and Nintendo. And being number three for so long now, they just are trying new things. They're just trying to throw darts and seeing what sticks. And this is obviously something good for gamers. I found it surprising when I saw that there could be a possible, I guess, alliance with Microsoft and Nintendo putting Xbox Live on the Switch. That pleased me as far and that pleased me and a lot of other gamers out there that that could be a possibility, and this makes it even more enjoyable. But again, how well is it going to be used on these services as far as iOS and Android, because that's pretty vague out there as far as the capabilities of all these different cell phones and what they can actually do. Or is it, talk about a tablet or whatever iOS and Android device that you're using? There's so many different variables when it comes to trying to go ahead and effectively play or utilize your mobile phone or mobile product, that it's going to be, I guess, kind of to me a hit and miss on mobile. But the fact that it's there, I think it just makes gamers and makes players and makes casual individuals that are just going ahead and checking this out realize that, hey, Xbox is willing to go the extra mile for gamers out there. Maybe we should go ahead and take a bigger investment into what Microsoft Xbox is doing now and down the road. So it looks like to me that the Xbox Live being on all these different platforms is a good thing. And hopefully it will lead to more great things like this with maybe PlayStation, Nintendo, and more coming up down the road in the coming years as we expand our reach and also our the way we actually do subscriptions such as Xbox Live.
Right,
What
sorry, one more thing, like, think about it too, like, how many, Nintendo's got a busy indie dev system right now, but how many devs would be interested in the Microsoft platform? Could their products be played on so many different platforms too? So, again, accessibility, I think, is a key marketing strategy in this situation.
Couldn't agree with you more, my friend, but I am excited as Xbox Live hits mobile products on iOS and Android. And you never know, the future may also have Xbox Live on a Nintendo Switch sometime very soon. What are your thoughts out there on Xbox Live's reach, expanding reach out there? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, let us know about are you playing the Division 2 and do you like it better than the original or do you think it's not quite as good? Share us your thoughts on Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, before we talk about Captain Marvel being essential viewing for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and also what Josh wants to talk about with a great game that he's playing, we got to play another great song from our good friend DJ Plasma Z. Haven't played him in a while, but this is one of our favorite songs that you got to check out. This is Supernova, and this is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back to close out the show. This is Gerald Glasser from the Pop Culture Cosmos coming right back at you here. If you need a listing of where we're at, because we're being played all around the world, because we're being played on radio stations all around the world, 7 days a week, you can catch a listing of where we're at on our Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page, also as well on our Twitter and Instagram as well. You'll see a listing right there of all of our different radio stations, and you'll also get some information on all the different podcast networks that we're doing, including possibly, hopefully, we just got the word that we may be on Pandora. We'll give you a confirmation when we get it for sure. But we got a heads up that we may be on Pandora sometime soon, thanks to our good friends at SiriusXM and the Spoke and the Spoke uh, and the Spoke outlet that they were using, which unfortunately that they're closing down. But we do appreciate SiriusXM for allowing us to be on that platform. And now we're just even so much happier that, and now we're even happier now that we're going to be, hopefully, keeping fingers crossed, we'll be on Pandora as well. My friend, you've got a great thing going on with Humanica Media, so share the goods, my friend. What's going on with Humanica Media?
So you can check out some of the games I've been playing. Yonder, Cloudcatcher Chronicles, which I'll talk about in a minute. You can get our past streams like Halo Reach and Gears of War Judgment, Halo Combat Evolved. And also, you can check out the latest episode of Topic Eclipse, which is basically just us talking about our favorite games of 2018. Granted, we're like 4 months late on that, but next year will be a little bit better in our release schedule. But you can check that out now. And apparently, we're back on Podcast Radio Network, so you can tune in every Tuesday night for some sweet Topic Eclipse.
That is the Topic Eclipse show that's available on all your favorite podcasters and also the Podcast Radio Network as well. But, if you guys started in August, it would be just right on time right there for you.
Yeah, right. Our timing's a little off there. Most people release their game, movie stuff of the year in December. So
well, we did right in early January, late December as well. So
right, and here we are in March, and we're just finally getting the rest of that content out. So my bad.
But that's Topic Apocalypse for you. Great shows nonetheless, no matter when it comes out during the course of the calendar year. Also want to mention as well 3 quick things before we head on to our last conversations. Do not want to forget our good friend Jason Dutch from the Voice from the Underground. He and I did an over, I think, 2-hour conversation on fantasy baseball as far as the picks, who to look out for, on sleepers, top picks, by position, the whole 9 yards, drafting strategies, everything that we could think of, we talked about. It was, like I said, a big 2-hour conversation. It is the Voice from the Underground. You want to check it out today on Podbean and many other podcast outlets. It was a great conversation, and I hope you will find it stimulating and helpful to your cause in fantasy baseball as well. Plus, also, we have got officially announced the charity event that we're doing at Retro City Games on April the 25th. Right now, we're just looking to see and finalize all the games that we're going to be doing as far as for tournaments, but we're thinking Call of Duty, Fortnite, Super Smash Brothers Ultimate once again. Plus, it's the hot game right now, so we gotta include Apex Legends. So we're gonna do tournaments with prizes during the course of that evening. Plus, we're going to be doing a lot of great things for some great charities. I believe we're going to be doing these. I believe we're going to be helping out these charities again, and that is the Make a Wish Foundation of Southern Nevada, also as well Three Square of Las Vegas, and the UMC Children's Hospital. It goes to a great cause. So start saving your money, start getting those cans together, start getting those wrap toys together, because once again, we're going to be doing a great event. Plus, great music from Vedius, Hyperschmidt, Trudai, and Vedius told me he might have another great band coming as well. So catch it. You'll be able to catch it again on April 25th at Retro City Games in Henderson, Nevada. We're also going to be doing a panel that weekend on the 27th at the Level Up Expo. We're going to be at the. It's going to be it's going to be a live record. It's going to be a recording of the Pop Culture Cosmos show in front of a live audience at Level Up Expo. Be part of the fun. Our panel is on Saturday the 27th from 3 to 4:30 Pacific Coast time. So that's again 3 to 4:30 p.m. Pacific Coast time. Got to catch it. It's just so much fun we're going to be doing. We're going to have a whole bunch of guests. A lot of our regular crew is going to be there. A lot of the special guests we've had over the course of the past year are going to be there as well. So many, and some of and we're going to have a lot of music there as well from Vedius and Hyperschmidt and Trudai. So we're going to be doing a lot of great stuff there in the middle of this great Level Up Expo. If you want the tickets for it, you want to find out more information on exactly what's going on at Level Up Expo, because it's going to be a great weekend of pop culture fun. You got to check it out today at lvlupexpo.com or Level Up Expo on Facebook. And then last but not least, Josh and I, Jamie and Tony and I did a Captain Marvel spoiler cast. Well, that's right. Josh Peterson, Jamie and Tony Monroy from Game Source, and we shared our thoughts in detail, spoilerific, on Captain Marvel. You got to check out that Captain Marvel spoiler cast today on Podbean and all of our other great podcast networks. My friend, speaking of Captain Marvel, I posed this question out on the spoiler cast, and that is this: your thoughts on Captain Marvel as an essential tool for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're not saying if it's a we're not saying if it's a bad or good movie. That's not in question here. We're just asking, is it essential for someone who has not seen any of the movies in Marvel, in any of the movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that wants to catch up and wants to get the best highlights or the best things to reference before going into Endgame? Is Captain Marvel essential viewing for the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And maybe if you could also mention a couple other movies you think are or are not essential watching as well.
Well, obviously, Iron Man is essential. I think all of the first five, or the first Avenger films outside of Incredible Hulk are essential watching because they kind of set the stage, for Shield, the Avenger Initiative. They introduce Thor, Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, things like that. I feel like that's essential viewing. Captain Marvel, I always look at what's essential viewing based on what the film content, right? So Captain Marvel, they introduced Shield in the 90s. Was Shield already introduced? Yes. They introduced the Skrull and the Kree. Were the Skrull and the Kree already introduced? Yes, the Kree were introduced in Agents of Shield. The Skrull were introduced in uh or were they ever introduced before that? No, no. Okay, so there's that, and that maybe that's important. But I know they were referenced a lot in like Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. So the cosmic side of it, Ronan the Accuser, things like that, they were already introduced. Um, and I want to say it's not essential viewing just based on the fact that I know in Endgame they're going to talk, who is this lady? Where did she come from? And they're going to give a brief backstory on who she is, and that's just that, because they Marvel knows, because good marketing on their part, they know that a lot of the people who are going to see Endgame aren't going to see Captain Marvel, just like they know a lot of people who saw Infinity War didn't go see Black Panther. So, and even in Infinity War, they talked a lot about Black Panther, what he was doing, where he's from, what the country stood for, stuff, yada yada, stuff like that. So, again, there's not really a lot of new concepts outside the scroll introduced in Captain Marvel. And so, if you were to ask me, is it essential viewing? I would say no, but is it worth watching? I would say yes.
Exactly. Is it worth watching? We both said the movie is okay, and we thought, is it worth watching? Yes, we did. But is it essential? I I'm gonna say no. It's not essential to watch. I mean, if you want to catch up on the major parts of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you'll get to know exactly what's going on with her, like you said, with probably a brief reminder of who she is in Avengers Endgame. Plus, people have seen via the various trailers and also as well the commercials to understand how good she is, how powerful she is, and how important she is to the actual overall Marvel Cinematic Universe by the time Avengers Endgame comes out. So they know pretty much that she's going to be a heavy hitter when it comes to the Avengers. I think there are films like Thor: The Dark World, even Ant-Man, the original Ant-Man, those to me are not essential movies to the overall scheme of things. I think the second Ant-Man movie is important to the essential watching because you find out so much more when it comes to the quantum realm. Is Doctor Strange essential watching? I'm going to say yes. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, no. Guardians of the Galaxy, yes. How about something like Thor Ragnarok, a very well received movie, but is it essential to the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I would say no, but also if you're a continuity obsessed person like myself, I would say yes. If you're just jumping into it, there's no need to watch it because you can't watch Ragnarok and not go back and watch the other two just to find out more about Thor and what, because Thor Ragnarok relies heavily on references from Thor the Dark World. So I would say if you're just jumping into something like if you're an Avengers jumper, you go from one Avengers film to the next, I would say no. But if you're someone who wants to know all the ins and outs of what's going on in each Avenger film, I would say yes because there's a lot of lead in. So and that's the big issue when it comes to essential viewing is how obsessed with the story are you? Do you want to just go in? What kind of movie fan are you? Do you want to go in and just enjoy it, or do you want to go in and know everything about every character? And that's where you hit that gray area with essential viewing. But if you're someone who's just going in to watch the Avenger flicks, and you don't really have to worry about movies like Thor Ragnarok and the Dark World and stuff, because Thor is there and they kind of give you a brief filler on like what he's been up to in the time between one film and the next.
I'm going to shock you here, my friend. I'm going to shock you.
Shock me.
Okay. You know my top 25, or actually, you know my pop culture cosmos guide to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know you've read it. You know my order of the films as far as the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I think is from best to worst. And I will be updating it with Captain Marvel here in the near future. But you've seen it. I know you have.
Yes, I have.
I'm going to say this that the number one film on my list is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's an
Boom.
awesome
Yes,
movie.
I
It,
agree. I agree.
it is not essential movie for the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point. If you're just wanting to know and be educated before Endgame, it is not essential viewing because it deals with Hydra, and Hydra is nowhere really to be seen, at least as far as I know, when it comes to Endgame at this
Right.
point.
Right, and that was weird to me because they cracked that big egg open in Winter Soldier, and then they closed it in Agents of Shield to show that a lot of Marvel film fans don't actually care about that much. So that was interesting. But yeah, and it's like if you're one of those people, again, it depends on how into the characters in the world you are. Because if you're one of those people who watches the end credit scenes, like in Black Panther, you're gonna want to know who the Winter Soldier is. Where did he come from? What's his deal?
Absolutely. So you can disagree with us or agree with us. We want to hear your thoughts. What are the movies that are essential? What are the movies that are essential viewing for the Marvel Cinematic Universe? leading into Avengers Endgame. Just think if you had a friend who hasn't watched any of the Marvel movies but really is excited about going to see Endgame, but they don't want to be left out of the hook as far as who's this, who's that, who's this, who's that, who's that, and you had to only show them maybe half of the films or even 5 to 7 of them, probably be 7 to 10 in my opinion, as far as at least so they can get a good idea of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is all about. Which ones would you choose? Let us know. Share your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. I really thank you for hanging out with me today on this awesome episode. Plus, also as well, thanking Vedius, thanking DJ Plasma Z, and thanking Hyperschmidt. And just in case Vedius tells me I can't play it, Hyperschmidt for being on the show with their great music today. Remember, you can catch Hyperschmidt and Vedius hopefully upcoming on our 2 great performances coming up in April. So keep on our social media to check out more information on that as it comes up. But I know you had some kind words to say about a game you're playing, so please share your thoughts on the game you're playing and why it's so good before we head on out.
Right. So the good people over at Prideful Sloth were kind enough to send me a review code of their game Yonder, uh, the Cloudcatcher Chronicles, and I gotta say, like for something built in the Unity engine, this game is incredibly impressive, super cool because it's kind of a Legend of Zelda esque type game, but it's also kind of like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley. You know, it's a farming simulator, but it's also very quest oriented. So it's huge for such a small game, and I admire the time it took to go into because you don't do anything in the game that feels pointless, and it really reminds me of Zelda, like one of a not Breath of the Wild, I would say, but something in the vein of Zelda, and it's fun, it's simple, and you pay it's a cheap, very cheap game, but it has hours of playtime. So I just want to give a shout out to Prideful Sloth. I'm digging this game so much right now. I'm gonna have a review popping up here soon. But if you get a chance, check the game out. It's called Yonder Cloudcatcher Chronicles. It's available on Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and I want to say Steam also.
And then again, like I said, it sounds like a great game. So definitely check that out and check it out. Right. It sounds like it's a great game. So definitely check that out indeed. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's a beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.